myself.
Yeah.
But my neighbor was over and it just shoved me back about 3 feet.
They were gonna call me. Wait, sorry, for anybody watching tonight, I might move our working so everybody just speak loud and hope they can hear. And Lori called me, Kevin, condoles to your family. I'm gonna pass that on. Thanks, Mark. With that being done, I'd like approval of the agenda for April 4th, 2022 Snowville Township Council meeting. Sherry, second by Debbie. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Any conflicts of pecuniary interest for the general nature thereof? Showing none. I'd like the approval of the minutes of March 21st, 2022 Council, Snowville Council Record meeting. By Wenda, by Kevin. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Bylaws and resolutions. 2022 Snowville Township budget, third and final reading. First, second, third reading. Motion, then we'll discuss it. Moved by Jazz, second by Sherry. Discussion? Go ahead,
Yeah, just a question. I mean, this is pertaining to our budget, the municipal budget, but during our deliberations, we never heard about the county. What, did they finally set their rate?
Look at it.
No, I think, no, we didn't actually approve it. It's gonna be the next meeting.
Next meeting,
Yeah, so I can't tell you exactly what that percentage of, it was in and around 3.5% or something like that. There's a lot of expenses at the county level. This ambulance space is several $100,000 a year more than it was last year.
4 hour service.
24-hour service, yeah. And moving towards 4 hours of care per resident at the Parrot Center, more staff, a number of things that.
A lot of regulations.
Yeah.
Parrot Center.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the combined rate will be.
You don't know, I don't think, Brian, you haven't received that yet.
We don't know what the overall increase will be, but we know what our increase.
I think it's pretty well set. I mean, you got the final. Go ahead, Brian.
The final draft of what's included for county purposes is included in the updated Schedule A. It will not be levied and updated. We may have to come back for an amendment if county should change their numbers just for the Schedule A. But that information has been updated in financial value to that county information on Schedule A and bylaw that's attached to your copy. But as far as any sort of analysis, I'll leave that for the treasurer, after which time the county is actually passed and approved their rates. But that information is included in the Schedule A as attached.
Good enough, thank you.
I don't think the education change was it this year.
No, it's the same. Yeah.
Okay, so we have first and second here? Yes, we did. Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. What was it? D02 2022 135 Kersey Road, Everhart. We're looking for second, third reading. By Doug, second by Sherry. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. Order number C, D03 2022 5737 County Road 4 B. Laura. Moved by Debbie, second by John. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. Okay, staff reports, manager, finance, you're gonna carry that, Brian? Oh, sorry, you are, Jason? Okay, good enough.
Thank you, Reeve. On behalf of Christina, who's ill this evening, I helped co-author this report, so I'm hoping I can provide a brief overview for you. With respect to the RFP, request for proposal submissions for real estate services representing us in the Township of Stone Mills. We had collectively issued a request for proposal for a approximate 20-day period and successfully received 4 submissions. The 4 submissions were all reviewed based on commission fees, agent profiles, technological services, as well as their local experiences within the township. And I can say that all 4 applicants or submissions to our RFP process were local submissions in which we completed recent work with, and we found them all to be very competent and put together very good proposals. With that, we have a recommendation that endorses the use of Remax Finance and Realty, with the broker being Jennifer Fitzpatrick, and the of interest part, the financial component is that the 4% fee associated with the sale be reduced to a 3% fee should the agent or broker act on behalf of both the seller and the buyer. So you get a percentage reduction if successful with the recommendation that we have as staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Jason on this? John?
Yeah, thanks. What sort of transaction or business would this person be assisting us with? Just give an example of the sort of thing they would do.
We have 3 surplus land sales that we envision being necessitating the assistance of this individual. 2 of which are with our lawyers currently working on title and distributing or finalizing any legal descriptions. And we have 1 active property that we think is marketable based on our legal opinion. And that would be the primary role of this individual to assist us with the disposition of those surplus lands.
Thank you.
Just one question, and then in the same line there, if we had expropriated land, would they be giving us a value?
Through you, we have expropriated lands, and we also have some of those surplus lands in which we thought would be best suited for an appraiser to provide valuation of that land before we then market it as a lot addition, for example. This individual would not be responsible for that. That would be contracted out as a separate appraisal cost that would then be borne by future purchaser of that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Linda.
So you mentioned that you had 4 submissions and they were all really good. Do you mind just describing what the criteria was and how you arrived at selecting Remax?
Through you, Reed Smith, the biggest component of our consideration was financial or budgetary. And when I say the really quote unquote really good submission, I say that largely in fact that they're reputable firms that were local, all spearheaded by agents that we would all be familiar with our local community. Some of those agents were based out of our municipality, including this recommended candidate, and others were locally, like as in Napanee. The technological component of what is one of the major aspects that we gave consideration to, and that, for example, in vacant land sales, in our opinion, would be drone footage with the use of aerial imagery that's shot with a drone as opposed to video or photography, as well as multimedia marketing capability. So that was sort of the technological component that we utilized. Agent profile was a profile denotion that we gave based on the number and the valuation of land sales that those agents had completed in the township of Stonewalls or within the county of Lennox and Addington, for example, within the past 3 to 5 years. And that information was submitted on behalf of each brokerage, supporting what their local knowledge and expertise is with, for example, vacant land sales. The commission fees, lastly, was within our matrix. The commission fees were standard 4% commission fees, with the consideration not to reduce by a percentage point should they act on behalf of the seller and the purchaser, whereas the recommended selected candidate, is one that's willing to offer us that opportunity for 1% savings. And my apologies, I said the other three were all four. It was 4, 4, 3.75, and 3. So I was in there when I mentioned all other three being at 4%. So, but this selected candidate is the only one that provided a 3% application that representation.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, Jason, do we put those in the paper for sale under the municipality, or would that the real estate agent look after that?
Yeah, great question. The intent is to have the real estate agent take care of all of that for the municipality. We find that there's better exposure if we have a real estate agent making that known on, for example, realtor.ca website, as opposed to our single listing on the municipal website and not garnering that market. So they would go to that broader market and get that information.
But if I could, but would it still go into the Beaver per se, if these lands for sale from Stone Mills municipality?
Great question, Kevin, or Councilor Richmond. I'd have to make sure through conversation with the selected real estate agent that their listing encompasses local newspapers. But I believe so. If that's standard that real estate listings hit that paper, I would think so.
Okay, thank you. But no.
If we have a recommendation from us for removal, moved by Doug, second by Sherry. More questions or comments? All in favor, motion carried. And your public works, emergency service, anyone corner. Door and restaurant and food agreement, facility for dining. Jason, you gonna go with this one?
Thank you, Richmond. Anyway, public works hat on.
Just put it around.
With respect to the first item, an encroachment agreement for outdoor dining at the A1 Corner Store in Tamworth. This is an encroachment agreement in which the property owner has entered into with the municipality 2 years into the past. However, it wasn't brought before council based on the delegated authority to Public Works Manager and CAO to execute that in the state of emergency. Many of you may be familiar with the use of concrete barriers adjacent to the A1 Corner Store that set outdoor gathering and tables to essentially foster economic stimulus in the community during a state of closure. And the owner of the A1 Corner Store saw positive successes with that use for the past 2 years and is requesting that the municipality grant her the ability to utilize that public space in our municipal right-of-way for a public patio in the summer months and have the assistance of the township. Public works staff put the barriers to ensure for public safety. And this essentially, this encroachment agreement encompasses the insurance coverages that are necessary for that owner to provide to ensure that that coverage extends into public right-of-way and municipal lands. So this is something that we have seen in the past on a trial basis, and in our opinion was successful, and we're requesting that council enter into a temporary 1-year encroachment agreement to allow for that use for the summer of 2022.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Motion to approve?
Seconder, Kevin, any more discussion? Yes, I have no problem with here, but I know there's big transports come up there, past the mill, sometimes open in that Valhack road. She's pretty tight turn there, and that's my only concern right there, is you welcome to turn right, and it's gonna be tough. I just, like you say, you have insurance, I just don't want to see something happen to somebody, or we're stuck by it. If we're out on the road, there's a vehicle on that road, so. Anyway, that's just my concern, go ahead.
Yeah, well, my question goes along with that a little bit. In future, I would appreciate there's a sketch with some measurements on it, so it's easier to look at and see then. But also, when I read through it, there was a question there that we had installed the concrete barriers in the past. Were we reimbursed for that?
Through you, I'm not confident in that answer.
Okay,
Answering the absence of.
I'll just make a statement, not that I have an issue with doing it, but we should be compensated for it, because what you do for one ratepayer, you should do for the other ratepayer. So, I mean, we shouldn't be doing something free unless we're gonna go across the street and do it for the other guy. So, if it costs us $100 to put them there, then we should be reimbursed for it, I think, to be honest with you. So, that's just food for thought going forward.
Something did there, little barrier over there, just parked on the way, I think it's three of them, just.
Pick them up, move them over.
Yeah, that's right.
That, all I'm saying is that
No, I know-
somebody could perceive that, hey, this person got something that I didn't get free, and people will think that way. So it's always best if everybody's treated exactly the same way.
Your worship, to speak to that matter, Council Davison, there were more than one during the pandemic that this type of application was entertained. Just other business owners chose or elected to not actually proceed with the outdoor dining option. So, it's not uniform to just one. We would offer, if we're able, if we have the resources and we can apply, especially during the pandemic, we were intending to accommodate that. And so the first time that this comes to council, as well as the one from the Devon Cafe, both were actually moving forward with their coaching agreements to get outside business. So it's not just an individual application, but concurrently we hear what you're suggesting, Councilor Davison. It's just if we get a motion to that, then we can ask for the installation charges, whatever that might be, if that's council's desire.
I always just think it's fair to make sure that everybody's treated consistently, you know, and so that nobody can perceive that they're being treated differently, or somebody's being treated differently.
Yeah, and like it just, I mean, many people got a grant or some money up there, and we had a road there, and they had these valves and stuff in one move. But they just went in and put the parts under and moved them all the way, and make things a little easier. So I mean, I think the township does this all over. It's not a big.
As long as we are,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want the perception that somebody gets treated differently.
Council Davison publicly, sorry, your worship, we'll do whatever we can if it's considered to be a one-time assistance to a business. We won't mobilize the application for that issue, but we will assist them whenever possible.
Yeah, there's, just one, to your point, the trucks coming out, the hell out there, if we put a sign up here, any big trucks or whatever, you drive them.
I guess that they can grade out crops, but I haven't seen in terms of 200. Now it's a team will
No,
grade out. Yeah, I know what you're saying there. Yeah.
because I know what it looks like, I see it, it is pretty tight.
Some people get on the GPS and they just grade ahead regardless of whether it's urgent.
There's been people take transports that follow GPS.
There was a story I heard one evening on Acid Athens that called to of a village in England, and when GPS came out, the most direct route for truckers was to go through this village, and every single one of them got hung up in the insect. Until the word got out, it happened consecutively for weeks and weeks.
Well, just this little story a year ago, Jack and I dealt with one of our on the Sheffield Bridge Road. We're doing something there, and we went up and do the big transport, Sheffield Bridge. Go up through there, stop the bar, and he just said, where the hell is where are you going? He says, I don't know, anyway, send him to, I just go to 41 and go to Tweed, where are we going? How do I get there? We go down, we're big straight up to 41 and up and hit Tweed there. Like, the GPS.
Yeah.
Knows.
And the Rich Delvin?
Yeah, total devil.
Yeah.
1977, I was in Dover, Delaware, high school, and the first hose and ladder, that was the name of the fire, just received 125-foot tiller bar trip, and they were so proud of it, brand new American France. And so they wanted all of the Canadians, which were to go down and look at it and go for a ride. What did they do? They took us over to the hospital, which had circular drive. Now, if you know how a tiller bar works, you got a tractor, and then you got a trailer that's steered from the rear wheels. The rear wheels are on one side of the circle, the tractor's on the other, and we're shaving the cedar trees about off. I'm like, holy God, we're gonna be shot.
Anyway, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. Thank you. Committee reports, items for,
Village entry sign.
oh, sorry, John, thank you, yeah. Village entry sign, yeah. Who, Jake, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to sit in tonight for Public Works Supervisor Thompson, who is ill. This is something staff has been working on, replacing our village entry signs, some of which are in non-great condition. And Public Works Supervisor Thompson has picked out his favorite from some options, and he's looking for the recommendation to use that option going forward, and he's looking for approval from council to get some quotes back on the purchase of these signs.
Thank you. Anybody? Any, conversation or what do you think is, sorry, Wendy, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have only got one on my preferred sign. It was the one with the stone nails right at the top and then welcome you at the bottom. So I didn't see these other ones. That wasn't, no, my question dealt with the actual report. In the overview, second paragraph, it says, staff is proposing that we do not replace the entry signs where community members have designed and installed their own sign entering the village on main entry points. That includes Newburgh and Yarker, but Tamworth also has these big, beautiful signs, on both sides of County Road 4, like one on Ordinary 41 and one, down this way. So would that statement then actually include Tamworth in that, or is there some reason that Tamworth is going to be included in these signs?
Go ahead, Jake, you're.
Did you get that, Jake?
I know exactly what she's saying. I wish Public Works Thompson were here to answer this. My intuition is that sign you're talking about, the corner of 41 Highway.
Yeah.
To me, that's hardly a village entry sign because it's a long ways down the road from where Tamworth actually begins. Anyway, so my gut feel is that that's why it wasn't listed in his report, that they would still put this sign where Tamworth actually begins. Whereas the Yarker Newburgh signs, my memory is that they're actually at the entry. And Councilor Thompson, not Councilor Thompson, but Public Works Supervisor Thompson was thinking that just hiding another new sign behind the beautiful new sign installed by the village might look like wasted money.
Just on that vein, it's still coming out of Tamworth this way, at the village proper. There is one sign that's quite large and that TEDCB or what? Sorry, I got that wrong. I had it installed.
Yeah, through your worship, Councilor Lalonde, if that is the case, I'm not an expert on every village sign, but if there is a welcome to Tamworth that was paid for by TEDC, then my feeling is that yes, that there would not be another sign put in that location saying, welcome to Tamworth, similar to Yarker.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just one final. So in Newburgh, those beautiful new signs that the World Color Renewal Committee designed, I was on that committee. Anyway, they're on County Road 1, but Newburgh has two other exits. So there's County Road 11, County Road 17. Would they be putting that sign on those two streets, roads?
Through your worship, yes.
Okay.
So I believe there'd be three other, probably County Road 17, County Road 11, County Road 27. There would be at least three and maybe four if you're on Main Street coming from the south. And those other signs would feature these new signs.
Thank you.
Maybe on your town limits or village limits, like that.
Secondary roads were mentioned.
Captain, that's something.
Yeah, just point out, Jake, and I did mention it to Jeff too, that the one on the south end of Colebrook, the sign is gone, missing, has been for a couple of years. I just want to make sure that we get that one back up. back on board. So there should be 2 or 3 there too.
Okay, anything else? If not, we got a motion in front of us. Moved by Sherry, second by Debbie. Any more questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. There we go. Items for information. Letter from resident regarding debris and requested cleanup on the property surrounding the soccer field in Tamworth.
Thank you, Richard. This item, as you're aware, was alluded to during our public meeting session tonight, which started at 5:30, respecting the zoning amendment application. If it is a different submission, I apologize, but I believe it is the same author, and staff have been in communication already to date with that resident, and confirm that this item for request will be addressed moving forward when some site work start and commence at that 6:30 Township property.
I have a motion to receive the report by Sherry, second by Debbie. All in favor? Carried. John, you got something?
Yeah, just on the next item there, Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act. I just wondered if Jason wanted to comment about this and from a, I guess, a red tape perspective. The rollout of this that I was reading in the media seemed to be entirely focused on municipal procedures as being a major holdup to the development of housing. And I think that's fairly irresponsible of the current government. We've gone through a long process of streamlining our approvals processes. We're in the process of rolling out a county-wide coordinated approvals process that's going to significantly cut down on so-called red tape time. And while there can always be improvements, I think the government is maybe hiding behind this old line about red tape holding up everything, and maybe there's got to be a little more in terms of incentives for development, as opposed to pointing the finger at municipalities. And I won't ask you to make a political statement, Jason. I'm doing that. I'm just wondering, from your standpoint, are there still sort of glaring holdups in the approvals process where you can see that we can do an even better job at this point?
Thanks, Deputy Revise. This is a really interesting agenda item, and I wanted to put it on tonight's agenda for discussion because obviously it's directly applicable to municipalities and specifically planning and development departments within, and the major focus is targeting the Planning Act and the red tape associated with navigating that development approval process. The one thing that I would say as it relates to Bill 109 and the proposed changes within are that the Township of Stone Mills will not be impacted, in my opinion, to the degree that most other municipalities in Southern Ontario will be impacted. Very rarely, we've had this conversation at council with respect to service levels, processing times, and adhering to our provincial legislative requirements. And I believe, in my opinion, we do a very good job in ensuring that one windowed approach, if you will, in navigating that approval process. Now, if you talk to a developer, they may say something completely different, but that's my opinion. And I would say that as having recently navigated development approval processes in other municipalities and see the efficiencies or the holdups that they have. One of the biggest components that they have included within this bill for consideration that I find interesting is the refund component to application fees. They're essentially, as we know, we have mandated requirements from a timing perspective of how quickly we ought to process applications. Well, what's the ramification if you don't hit that time frame? The developer or the applicant has the opportunity to appeal to the OLB or OLC or what Ontario Land Tribunal is called today. That process is slow. So ultimately, you don't see a lot of developers rush to that because there's a slowness on the municipality front in processing. So what the province is proposing in this is a 50, 75, 100% refund requirement should you not hit your legislative timeframe on zoning amendment, site plan control, and visual plan applications. It's an interesting approach. I mean, it's, so again, our lion's share of applications, as we're aware, are consent, so not subject to this change. We have site plan control applications, all of us are aware of it, Slack Family Farms, we had free flow petroleum, we've had, those are the two that jumped on, and we had those three, let's use those three as an example. All three of those were far longer in process than 90 days. All three. There's no, in my opinion, there's no chance you're gonna navigate the approval process in 90 days on a complex site plan control application. Well, the problem is saying, no, if you can't do it within 180, you gotta give them 100% of speed. So what does that mean for staffing levels? What does that mean for customer service levels? It's very interesting. How this is going to combat affordable housing, I don't really know. I get maybe your Toronto developer who's proposing a tower, who's already navigated the complex component of a public process, like zoning bylaw amendments and official plan amendments, and now we're subject to the details and minutiae that are included in site plan control. We want that process expedited. But there are often times that it necessitates that time. You have peer reviews associated with hydrogeology studies, where you have technical reports that are looked at by an engineer for stormwater. And that's going to be a very challenging aspect to adhere to. The second point that I pulled out is that we've talked about the delegation of authority in this municipality, and we specifically spoke to it as consent, because we, as staff, thought it was responsible of senior staff to try to navigate and expedite approval processes where necessary, where we see bottlenecks in an application type that necessitates not general or significant feedback from the community. And so that was done for consent applications. The province is now saying it's a requirement that the councils delegate the authority for site plan control approval to staff. Well, that's the change. That's not a requirement right now. Municipalities have the opportunity to do that now. Some municipalities do. We did for 2 years, but we don't now. So that's a change. I just want to point that part out. Complete application requirements is a change for site plan control. Right now, you have site control, you have notice of complete application when you submit for zoning amendment, for example. So you could submit your zoning amendment, and if staff are concerned about hitting our legislative timeframes on processing, we'll just say, we're not going to accept it. We're not going to deem it complete. So you can't penalize us. Well, the province has come through and said you got 30 days to be not complete. You can't just sit on that. So now your time clocks are ticking. They're now implementing that same approach in the site plan control, the same as what applies for zoning amendment. That's a bit of a change. And draft plan approval with lapsing. We're familiar with Warner Pasture subdivision in our municipality, and it's come up for consideration 5 times because it's typically associated 3-year condition. And in my experiences, most rural municipalities often deal with lapsing conditions, or they often deal with applicants who are seeking the extension, what have you, market plans or environmental studies or RSC considerations. So there's some changes in that legislation that are potentially of value or interest to Stone Mill. And lastly, the $19 million addition to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or the OMB, to try to expedite more approvals when developers appeal to the board because of the backlog. That's not a change, it's just a more funding allocation, I suppose, to that tribunal to try to clear backlogs and expedite processes. Again, how much bearing that has on Stone Mill's maybe not so much because we don't have a whole lot of hearings. But they're very hard things to budget for, as you know. People don't always see the same, agree on the same planning approval process and appeal, and all of a sudden caught into a hearing. The red tape can really come into effect when you're in front of the board and it takes 9 months to get a hearing and then 6 months to get a decision. So the problem is answers put more money and try and put more board members in seats to hear the actual applications. So those are just again, I try to let you revise the political statement on this, and I'll try to provide some information with respect to the bill. But it's a very interesting read, and I encourage everyone to do so if you haven't done so yet.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just follow up. So where is this bill at in the approval process?
First step.
Yeah.
I for comment, and I don't have
It won't be law before the election.
no, I don't believe so. No. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, on the second page in here, the words that are the problem says announce the number of consultations related to the housing and development. And really, this goes in with John's second question here is, if we have concerns with any area here, we should document them like Jason just did. We should document them on paper and send them to, okay? And I'll be quite honest, Steve Clark is a very reasonable man to deal with, and if you send him information, or if you, better still, if you can have an appointment with him at some point. I mean, he was the mayor of Rockville. He understands municipal politics very well. And, but when I read this, it says they're looking for consultation. We would be in error if we think that there's items in there that are proper. Okay, if we didn't at least send our input, you know? And as Jason correctly said, we're in good shape because we went through that streamlining process. But there's a lot of municipalities that probably aren't in shape for it, you know, so, but I would like to see Jason document and forward the concerns too. You know,
Make a motion.
I hope.
Make the motion to do that, I'll get you one second. Okay, seconder? Jerry? Okay. More questions on that? I'll get a motion. Okay, when do you have something to say?
Yeah, so some of these deadlines are pretty tight. One is April 6th, 2 of them are April 6th. And for comments closed April 29th, April 29th, April 29th, April 29th. But the bottom 2 bullets, this would be under, on page 3, with all the blue text. The bottom 2 bullets of that, with the blue highlighted text, is April 6th, April 6th. So that doesn't give you a whole lot of time to comment.
So
Yeah, what are you doing for?
a few of the different, so the changes to the Planning Act 1990 on page 2, Councilor Law, that is the most applicable to Stone Mills, in my opinion. And I believe we have till the end of the month. I can't see it from your quick, but till the 29th. The others, for example, of just trying to pick one, April 6th. So proposed amendments to the Development Charge Act, supporting override 8280 and 98. For example, we're not charging GCs, so it's lesser importance. But I agree, even the end of the month to put together a drafted response is tight. But I'd also, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks as though there's an information session scheduled for April 13th, in which I haven't had the opportunity to sit on an information session. This is just been what I've been able to read and put on the agenda for this evening to summarize. So I hope I'm able to make that information session more subsequent one, just to see if there's other information that I haven't been able to catch through my cursory review of this documentation.
A lot of times I'll get emails from them for sessions, so I do all that. And then you take keep our beef with the guy. If we just get the, kind of, they'll meet with them. That's the key thing. Okay, so can I have anything else on that? I'll make a motion to receive the report. Moved by Kevin, second by Sherry, all in favor? Carried. Any new business statements from members? There's none. Okay. I have a confirmation bylaw. Moved by Linda, second by Kevin, all in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn, moved by John, moved by Kevin, all in favor? Good night, everybody. Please in Toronto.
I hear the person never said that.
That's just small.